This is basic setup 6. We're going to be going over validation rules today. The intention of this class is to show you how to set up your minimum staffing levels within the system. We can tell you, when you're short and where you're short. That way, if you need to bring anyone in on overtime to fill the shortage, I'm going to show you how to put in, your rules per hour of the day, whether it is, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, you need X amount of people working, or if it's, during the work week, we need, this amount of people, and then on the weekend, it's more, I'll show you how to set all that up. We're going to be going over a couple of different topics today as far as setup goes. The first thing we need to do is create what we call a validation skill set. Now, a skill set's really just, it's just our way of defining a position in the system that we can link to an employee, to validate coverage. For example, you might have, an officer and a supervisor skill set, right? So one level is, we need X amount of officers. Another level is we need X amount of supervisors. And then maybe you have, we need this many dispatchers or desk people, you know what I mean? It's really just the position that we are counting towards minimum staffing. So to set that up, we're going to go to the administration menu. And we're going to go down to validation on the left. And the nice thing about what we're doing today is almost everything can be found in the validation menu. We're not going to be bouncing around all over the system. Everything we need is in this menu right here. So the first thing we're going to click on is validation and coverage skill sets. Now on this screen, there are 2 sections we got to fill out. The first section is to determine what color we want our shifts to show based on our minimum staffing. And what I mean by that is, so if we go like behind me, I have my daily schedule showing here, and I have my people working, so we can dictate a color that says, okay, when we are either at or above minimum staffing, show this color, which right now it's white. If I were to change that to, say, green or something, these shifts would be green. And then we could also tell the system what color we want to show the shift when validation fails, meaning we're below minimum staffing. And the nice thing about this is we can pinpoint, the exact shift where the staffing levels are falling short, right? So if I'm falling short on day shift, just day shift will show up red. Everything else will stay the other color. So to do that, we just click select color. I would, you can make it whatever you want, but I would certainly recommend making something or choosing a color that's a little easy on the eyes, right? You make it too bright, it might be hard to read the schedule. So something, I like a light green color, or even like a light tan color, and then you could choose the font color, whether you want it black or white. And then again, you pick the color when validation fails. I like red. It's pretty easy to see, right? And you notice it instantly, so you know exactly what shift is falling short. Now, once you do that, we have to put in our validation and coverage skill sets. Like I was saying, this is, these are the items or positions that we're declaring need to get filled. Now, there is an importance. You notice we have up to 6 fields we can fill in. The order is important. It pretty much goes in a hierarchy of item 1 to 6 being needs to get filled last to needs to get filled first. So because I only have 3 right now, this is saying I need my OIC position filled first before anything else. And then once that's filled, then I'll worry about filling patrol, and then I'll worry about filling desk. So far so good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Like I said, we have up to 6. I'm only using 3. So because these are blank, they don't even get looked at, right? So, if you only have, say, officer and supervisor, well, then your officer would be item 1, item 2 would be supervisor. And what happens is, this is kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but you might have someone, like in my example, I might have a few people that could count either towards patrol or OIC. They're capable of counting towards both. Well, what's going to happen is that if we're falling short on OIC, the system's going to look to see what the highest level of validation skill sets you possess, and it's going to put you towards that. So if I was falling short on OIC and I brought in someone who was capable of working both, he's going to count towards OIC and not patrol. However, if I'm falling short on patrol but I'm good on OIC and I bring in someone that counts towards both, they're going to count towards patrol because OIC is already filled. You know what I mean? So once we put in, however many items you have, don't worry about any of this other stuff. Don't worry about that other tab. You don't need it. We're going to fill this out. You get your colors, fill out the items. So we click Save. Now after that, we need to take these skill sets and assign them to an employee. So to do that, once again in the validation menu, now we're going to click on, it's the first screen, Employee Validation Skill Sets. This screen's pretty easy to use. Here, we're literally just going to check off the skills that apply to someone. So we're going to click on Select Employees. You're going to select all your employees. And now you'll notice every employee has their own row, and my first three columns are the skill sets, right? There's desk, there's patrol, there's OIC. If like right here, Darren Coleman, he can count towards patrol but not desk or OIC. You're just going to go right on down the list and check the boxes next to the skill sets that they possess. And then when you're done, you go through the list. And like I said, it's okay if you have someone count towards more than one. You might have that. You might have someone that doesn't count at all. You just leave it all blank. Once you're done, you click Apply, and then you can close. So far, so good?
Yep, looks pretty easy so far. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, so this next one, some people get confused about, so I do want to take some extra time with this. The next thing we're going to do is create what's called a validation shift. And honestly, the easiest way to think about a validation shift is just a group of shifts that count towards minimum staffing. And what I mean when I say that is, we don't necessarily want all shifts counting towards minimum staffing. If we're validating for officers, well, we don't care about the dispatch shift, right? We only care about maybe the patrol shifts. And vice versa, if we're validating dispatchers, well, maybe we don't care about the patrol shifts. We want to know who's working those dispatch shifts. So every group of shifts that count towards, minimum staffing and that, we want to keep separated, that's going to be its own validation shift. So a validation shift can contain multiple regular shifts. So if we go to validation shifts under the validation menu, right now I already have some in there, but pretty much on the left is going to be a list of the validation shifts that we have. On the right is going to be all of the shifts that we're counting towards validation. So what I mean by that is when you created your shifts under Setup Shifts, when you were filling this screen out, we have this Validate Minimum Staffing Levels button here. You can either click yes or no whether or not this shift is counting towards minimum staffing. So pretty much if you click yes to any of these shifts, they're going to show up on this right as available shifts to select. So if you go to this screen and you notice there are some shifts missing, well then that's probably because they don't have the yes checked for validate minimum staffing levels in the setup shift screen. So in this example here, I have a patrol days validation shift that's only looking at the day shift. I have a night shift, validation shift that's only looking at patrol night shift. And then I have just a basic patrol validation shift that's looking at both. Where this kind of comes into play is like here, if I'm looking at this validation shift for my minimum staffing levels, it's only going to care about if I fall short on the night shift. It doesn't care about the day shift. So if we're falling short during the day, that shift on the schedule will not show up red. It only cares about this shift. So if you wanted to go with this approach where you're just kind of validating for patrol all in one shot, you might check all the boxes. But if you want, most of the time they don't really separate them between day and night. They usually separate it by, dispatch is its own validation shift, and then you have a patrol validation shift. Do you validate like dispatchers or anything like that?
Yes, dispatch and then patrol.
Okay, so in your case, then you would have two different ones. So what you do is we click new. We have to put in a code and a description. Now, the code, it's up to 12 characters. This is just kind of like an identifier for the system. So in your case, you could do something like DSP, and then in the description, you could, write out dispatch. And then you're going to select your dispatch shifts on this. You're going to check the boxes next to your dispatch shifts. You're going to click Save. And then you're going to create a patrol, or however you want to refer to it as. You're going to create that validation shift and check off the patrol shifts. That way, we're validating both, but separately. We don't want our patrol shift showing up red because we're short dispatchers. You know what I mean? So we want to keep them separate.
Okay. Yep. Now, when you do patrol, and you're putting days and nights, it's validating the day shift and the night shift separately.
If you fall short, it's gonna look at both of those shifts to see if you're falling short.
Perfect. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, you don't want too many validation shifts because then it becomes like a hassle trying to figure out which is which. That's why as far as like groups go, right? Patrol, dispatch, we want to separate them. But when you get into separating day from night and stuff, it can get a little tricky, and it's not worth it really. So you want, at the very minimum, a patrol and dispatch validation shift.
And then do I have to do anything, required shifts? Do I have to do anything with this dispatch? If you click that, do I have to bring it? Like I created it here on your left underneath. Like you have it here underneath validation shifts. You just created a dispatch one. Mm-hmm. Is there any other steps I need to do?
No, so you would click new, you put in your code, your description, and then you're going to have a list of dispatch. If you're like I said, if you notice some dispatch shifts aren't on this list, well, that's probably because they have no checked for them under, like here.
I got you.
So if you check yes, then they'll show up on that list as available.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Now I got it.
And then once you're done, save. Create the next one, do the same thing, save, and then you're done. Now the next thing we're going to do is put in the rules by hour. So to do that, let me just minimize that. We're going to go to the next screen, validation rules by hour. Now, because it's just me and you, I guess, does your minimum staffing levels, do they change based on what day of the week it is, or is it kind of like a set, amount across the board for the week?
No, it's a set amount across the week.
Okay, great. So what you're going to want to do is, first things first. So in this screen, it's asking you what validation shift do we want to work with. So in your case, you're going to see patrol and dispatch, or whatever you decided to name it. So let's just work with patrol right now. I'm going to select patrol, and then I'm going to go over to where it says day of week, because we have the ability to put in different rules for different days. We don't need to do that because you have kind of a set amount. So we're going to change it from select days to all. And now you'll notice I only have one line right here. When I click this button next to all, it opens it up. And you'll see my validation skill sets, and then every column represents an hour of the day. So the 000 column represents midnight to 1 a.m. The next one, 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., and it goes all the way up to midnight. So here you're just going to put in the amount of people that you need per hour of the day. Now, like I said, you're validating dispatch separately. So, in this case, maybe my desk is counting toward is for dispatch. You can leave that set to 0 because, like I said, patrol doesn't care about dispatch validation shifts. Dispatch does. So you're only going to fill out, patrol, and maybe if you're doing supervisor or OIC, something like that, you can leave dispatch 0. So for patrol, I guess what would be your minimum staffing levels, say for officer or patrol, whatever you call it?
2 guys.
Just 2 guys at all times of the day?
Yes.
Simple enough. Little tip for you. I'm just going to type 2, tab over, 2, tab, 2, tab, 2, tab, and you can kind of breeze through this pretty quickly. So now it's just saying at all hours of the day, I need 2 guys who have this skill set working, right? If you have another skill set, you can put in those numbers. But like I said, I don't care about desk when it comes to patrol, so I'm going to leave that set to 0, meaning I'm not looking to fill dispatch on the patrol validation shift.
Okay.
Done. You click save. You're going to get this pop-up, and then you just move on to the next one. So in this case, I'm doing dispatch. I want my day of week set to all. I'm going to expand this. Now I'm only going to put in a number for, desk or dispatch, and I'm going to leave patrol and OIC set to 0. Once again, you click save, and then, your validation is pretty much set up at this point. Now, the last thing I do want to show you is it's a nice grid view. A lot of people put on their daily schedule to kind of validate. It's a nice hourly grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit the dashboard on the daily schedule. And because I'm validating twice, right, I have dispatch and patrol, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this to the bottom. I'm going to move that. Let's do this. Move this down a little bit. So I'm going to add a tile. I'm going to add what's called the hourly validation tile. Don't worry about hourly job validation. That's something totally separate than minimum staffing. That has to do with like job assignments. So I'm going to select the hourly validation tile. I'm going to put in my timer. And because you have 2 different validation shifts, because what happens is each validation shift needs its own grid. So what I'm going to do is, just for my own, purposes, I'm going to put in a title. Maybe I'll say patrol minimum staffing. And then I'll adjust the title font, maybe make it a little bit bigger. Bold, 11. And then it's asking, well, what validation shift are we working with? In your case, it's going to be patrol or dispatch. So I select patrol, right? I click apply and use. And I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other tile. And you don't have to set it up. This way you could put it in, however you want. But as far as how to put it in, you're going to want to do it like this. Once again, select hourly validation. Use that timer. I'm going to put in the title now. Now I'll do, dispatch minimum staffing. Now, what shift? Validation, the dispatch validation shift. Apply and use. I click save and exit. Now I have this nice grid right here that tells me how I'm doing. I didn't actually put in my rules for dispatch, but for patrol, you notice at desk, because I said I need 0 people across the board, there's no color there. Now for patrol, I have my colors, I have my numbers, it's validating.
Right.
And now it's telling me, +2. So I'm 2 over the minimum staffing, which is 2. So I have 4 guys counting right now. Then it goes up to 3 at 7 a.m. and OIC. And then it'll also tell you when you fall short. So if I were to fall short, say from, I don't know, 7 to 1400, and my day shift is lit up red, I'll see exactly the hours I need someone to come in for. Pretty much how this grid works is if you see green plus numbers, that means you're good and you have an overage, right? You have more than enough people. If you just see green with no numbers, that means that you are at your minimum staffing level. And then if you see red and then a minus whatever, that means that you're down X amount of people.
Okay.
But yeah, so once you do that, you're good to go with validation. So did you have any questions about anything we went over validation wise?
Actually, the only thing was when you just created this tile for patrol minimum staffing. When you go to edit dashboard, how did you create that window again? What did you click? Excuse me.
So we edit dashboard, and you're gonna want to pop in a new tile. Right?
Yeah.
Like a blank tile, and we're going to click that add tile from catalog button. And then we're going to select hourly validation, not hourly job validation. That's going to give you something totally different.
Okay.
Hourly validation. Make sure your shift is, correct.
Yes.
And then you don't have to have a title in there, but because you're validating patrol and dispatch, if you just have two tiles with no title, you might not know right away what what each of them means. So if you want, throw it in there. If not, you can leave it blank. And you're just going to do that, hourly validation, and make sure the validation shift matches up.
All right. Perfect. I think I got it now.
Great. Yeah, so after this class, you only have one more class, and you're done with basic setup.
Okay.
You'll be ready to go, all right? So if you're running any issues in the meantime, feel free to sign up for a help out session. If not, I'm sure I'll be working with you in a class in the future. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and close out the meeting if you don't have any other questions.
No, that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Have a good day.
You take care now. Bye-bye.